This is the end of the mystery.
The final battle is here. The end of a season has arrived. And this week, we got a 2-for-1 special, as not only did Gates end this week, but KingOhger also ends. Its first arc. Sorry for the delay, folks, but editing that Gates finale review did take about 12 hours of editing to go through, so I needed a little bit of a mental break. Also, I had to do my day job. But now we are here to talk about KingOhger episode 26, the end of the Ragnarok era. Ragnarok is on his last tentacles, taking the big fight to the small-scale tussle over the fact that the Ragnarok were just painted to be evil. But since Jeremy and him can't see eye to eyes regarding their people's future, they must decide with one final duel for King of the Bugs. So he leaves Ragnarok with his blade and asks the other kings to acknowledge the Ragnarok Empire as the Sixth Kingdom. But that's gonna require some work, and Jeremy's got nothing but time. So, as they head for that face-off, Himeno drops the bombshell that the Ragnarok and humans actually are very similar in DNA, almost like a branched evolution. But Jeremy knew this, showcasing off the aftermath of Furious Godfest 08.
Furious Godfest 08.
As the Ragnarok have been collecting cicada shoe gods and feasting on their souls for a long time, thus allowing them to reach their current state, all in the preparations for their big-ass comeback. Humans, on the other end, said that bugs are our friends, not food. But eating shoe god souls does include the side effects of growing larger for maybe a few hours, and in most cases, death, whether by giant robot or just keeping it massive for that long. Even with all that, Jeremy has faith. Gira, not so much. But that's when the merch comes in with new tiny black tarantula shoe god, here to inform everyone on why he's cool chilling with these shoe god eaters. Because Ragnarok is apparently a pretty cool guy and protected him. So, with the big audit finish, all that's left is to throw hands. Wake up! Giving you ample time here to do some commentating for once. Wait, what? Really? You're not lying. Yeah, look, I need a break after doing this week's Geeks. Oh, yeah! You realize you gotta edit this, right? And you need to quick fourth wall breaking. Let's get those sparks flying! What the hell was that? This is my armed commentator voice. Oh, this is the first time you're hearing it. Should've had me do this before, so let's start anyway. Ragnarok with the sword beams, but Jeremy with his fire skis. But who needs some webbing when he's got his own wings for thread? Though Jeremy pulls out his third leg, plus 7 more, and picks Ragnarok up a peg, taking him out of the ring to announce that he is now the king. Wait, that's it? That was short as fuck! Great, now that that's settled, that worm don't want that sympathy. So off with his... Oh, here's Gira to tell us the moral of today's story. Yeah, he didn't like that. Well, even though the Ragnaroks attacked first, they've also squashed some bugs. And if the script were flipped, and it were humans driven underground, then we would have gotten the plotline to Gurren Lagann. So, as Ragnarok sees the light and starts understanding, it's a staff that sees through to him, because Kamajin was the mastermind this whole time, making sure that the conflict stood between the sides, and he would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those kids and that mangy shoe god. So Kamajin pays off what we all thought was going to be a major thing in Final Fantasy XVI and gets the light next to the moon to prep the heat. It's in these last moments of desperation that Ragnarok goes from worm with a grudge to best character redemption of this season of Superhero Time. telling Jeremy that the future of the Bugnaroks are in his hand, and he is to be their king, throwing the weight of that responsibility to Jeremy, and also throwing him away before getting dusted. So now, KingOhger tries to end things by going big, but the kings ain't playing around and summoning God KingOhger without the remaining pilots. But when KingOhger takes them 0 Gs, they give him 1 G to remember. And with that, Jeremy is officially the king of the Bugnaroks and gets to announce his nation and its citizens to a mixed reaction from the folks, including one hat guy. May the Bug Nation long live and prosper. Reading time! The end of the first half of KingOhger has made its voice heard, and it stuck the landing so hard that it made this part of the show just absolutely top tier. With the last episode being a culmination of events, this one served as a proper epilogue with the best character redemption in Deathnarak and gave us the lore that I so crave from time to time. As such, this episode is also getting the Sanoni Suzume Double S Dusted Worms Edition! Now listen, there's a lot of spoilers and teasers regarding this upcoming arc that I teased with some obvious false statements during the recap, but I won't go into them here, because I don't want to take away from this episode, as Deathnarak has really become a top tier character that has shown so much emotion and growth over the last 3 episodes that I've seen out of any other villains in recent years. At least once, they were strictly portrayed by suit actors. The fact that Deathnarak really didn't want to consume Shoe God souls, but did want to coexist with them, speaks volumes, especially since in his previous attempts to get the Shoe Gods, it was never implied that he was going to use them for anything less than what the kings do and use them to defend themselves. And of course, take down humans. But you know, they had that coming. Now, I did expect some sort of bad end to really hit with this episode, but instead got a bittersweet and somewhat hopeful ending, which was a surprise indeed, as the only death we got was Deathnarak's and the introduction of the new Tarantula Abyss, which is a nice recolor of Tarantula Night, which I'm interested to see if they will find some way to make this new Shoe God relevant, as we know toy-wise it connects to KingOhger 0 to keep that style and consistency, but I wonder if after Deathnarak it tries finding a new buddy. Maybe a certain former king who people think is actually dead. Jeremy's story has been an interesting one, as it does have a lot of mirroring with Gira's. However, if you are aware of the leaks, unlike Gira, who gets to be the king of his kingdom, Jeremy's will be short-lived, making them reflections of themselves in a way, but one suffering continual tragedy. The biggest tidbit is that I like that the theory that the humans were the invading creatures on the bug's turf was off, since they were apparently one and the same once upon a time, which explains why you can completely get that cross-species action going. Though, the introduction of the Shoe Gods to the planet is where the divergence happened, as one set used the bugs as tools, while the others sought to gain their strength through eating their souls, which is very similar to what older ritualistic tribes that would consume the heart of a fallen warrior, thinking that they'd gain their strength. In this case, however, it did end up mutating them. However, this episode also shows us that once you consume the souls and grow giant, you've shortened your lifespan immensely, which is why Garojim lives in the in-between of life and death, as he's technically already dead. Now looking at it, with the cicada Shoe Gods found in the lair, it's possible that the ones during the Fury of the Gods were these soulless husks that were being manipulated instead. Because without a soul, it would have been much more easier to puppet. Speaking of puppets though, KingOhger was indeed playing up all sides with another threat. A theory that I had early on for this show. But we did see him consume that Shoe God soul and get large. But it's likely, due to his own physiology, that he won't be susceptible to the side effect brought onto it. The question I ask myself now is, after seeing the moon, is that it's the Earth's moon. They went out of their way to change the landscape for the sake of the show to make it appear a little bit like a different planet. But the moon is a dead giveaway. So tell me, do you think this series takes place in the distant future of Earth or in the distant past? Sentai as a franchise has a lot of entries' backstories predate the current timeline by millennia to eons, so it would be extremely excellent to see them actually do that case here. Since the land of tofu does look a lot like Pangea, however, Antarctica is also still present on the world map. So there's always the higher possibility of this being the far distant future, especially since there's so much secrecy regarding the time that came before the Great War 2,000 years ago. But all of that will just have to remain to be seen as we continue down this path of great storytelling. So, what did you think about this week's KingOhger? Deathnarak getting peak redemption, Jeremy getting to be king, and 2 years of peace coming just to get aliens! Also, y'all thinking we're gonna get a brand new intro with this upcoming arc? Like, whole new intro? Or do you think we're just gonna get the second verse of Zanroku King? Anyway, that's it from me. Until next time, bye.